And you are. You want me to Jamie?
Probably.
All right, you're on.
Hey everybody, this is DENNISH and welcome to Living Your Best Life. I want to welcome the gentleman to my right, as always, Jonathan Luz.
Hello, everybody.
And do we have Jamie there?
Hello.
Hey
Can
Jamie.
you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. Well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
We're here. And I did want to let everybody know, feel free to call in with comments, share your experiences with us at 609-807-2492 at Hamilton Radio. I'm also happy to say this is the last week we're going to be coming at you live from the Hamilton Radio studio here. We will be moving to this beautiful, brand new, state-of-the-art studio next week, right, Doc? By next week.
Yep.
So it's going to look a lot different next week. Today I decided, I have to be honest with you, I had a whole lineup for this month of shows. And in the last 2 weeks, so much has gone on in my life and the lives of a lot of people around me that I thought, forget it, we're kicking in kindness this month. I want to talk about kindness, what it is, about how to handle people that aren't kind to you. And today I really want to focus on choosing your words carefully because boy, once you say them, you can't take them back. So that's what we're going to talk about this afternoon is kindness. To me, kindness is being respectful of someone else, being compassionate, being thoughtful on occasion. I think it's much easier to be kind than it is to be mean-spirited and unkind. Jonathan, thoughts on what kindness is to you?
Kindness has a lot to do with consideration and thinking about whoever you're engaged with, and trying to think about how they feel and being aware of, whether they're having a good day, a bad day, and kind of reaching out and, maybe just letting them know that they're not alone. This too shall pass, and that you care.
That they matter to you, that they have value.
Showing somebody that they have value is probably the it's easier to be kind even when you don't feel like it. You don't feel well. You're having a bad day yourself. But if you just put a little extra effort into being kind, it's much easier than um, staying quiet or not wanting to engage. I mean, we've had days. Hey, we each had a day this week where we didn't want to engage with anybody.
Oh,
And
we did not have a good week.
we always talk about being positive and eliminating the negative. Yeah, and we also said that not every day in our lives are sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns. But those are the times when your positivity is put to the test, and how you turn that around for yourself is going to help you turn it around for others. So when I think about kindness, it can manifest itself in so many ways depending on who you're engaged with. Like I said, it could be just opening a door, or if you enter a building before somebody, instead of letting the door go, you wait that extra second or
Right,
two
and hold it for
and
them.
hold it for them. Do they appreciate it? Maybe not always, but that shouldn't be your motivation for being kind, because being kind is good for you first. The other person or the person who you're extending yourself to or being kind to benefits if they appreciate it.
Right.
But you just benefit by being that positive person, even when you don't, even when you feel like, I'm trying to work on my language. So even when you feel like saying, the heck with that.
Right.
But you still give them a positive vibe, and that'll come back. It comes back to you.
And I did look up the definition of kindness this morning, and one of them is doing good things without expecting anything in return, which is part of the kindness. Like you're saying, it might not mean anything to someone that you open the door, but it made you feel good, and you weren't expecting them to say thank you. You just wanted to do something kind. And I think that's true. We're kind without expecting anything back. We just don't expect our kindness to be answered with something unkind from somebody else. That doesn't.
Well,
that's the other thing.
Well, we can get to that.
We're gonna get to that.
Trust
me, we're gonna get to that.
What's going on in your world, Jamie? We haven't heard from you in a couple of weeks. We missed you last week.
Yeah. Last week I had a migraine. I talked to Ann about it, and it's amazing how our body, our spine being out of alignment can just cause a series of unfortunate medical issues. So I do apologize for not being with you last week. And yes, like you two, Ann and I had talked that there's just something going on with the alignment of the planets and the stars, and all things considered, I think everyone has something going on this week that has caused some emotional highs and lows that we have been reflecting upon ourselves. How can we make this better for us and the people around us? So just like you said, you can do your best and take as much as you can take, and then there's just times where you are not seeing the positivity in it, and you have to let yourself feel the emotions that need to be felt at that moment in order to then turn it around.
Exactly. I think it's too, I think you and I were saying this morning too, I'm a big believer in the moon, and we're under a new moon, and every place I've gone this week, somebody has asked me how I was, especially Tuesday when I was out, because Tuesday was my filling a martini glass filled with tears. Every single place I went, to the food store, to the bank, I cried. And if someone said to me, how's your day going? I was honest.
You start crying.
I got teary-eyed, and I said, I'm not having a good day. I've had some people not being very nice to me. She goes, oh my gosh, so am I. And it seemed like there's a lot of that going around. And I guess that's where I kind of look at that old saying, if you can't be kind, be quiet. Because, boy, you can't take words back. I don't care what you said. And even if it's lovely to hear someone say they're sorry, but the words are still out there. And like I always say, everything is forgivable. It's just not always repairable.
I always say, here goes my language.
Careful now.
If you look up sorry, it's between shit and sympathy in the dictionary.
Oh, first curse word on the DENNISH show.
There you go.
Oh my gosh.
But on purpose, it was planned. So what does that mean? Like you said, almost anything is forgivable, but forgiveness comes from you. You're the one that's offended. Whoever's forgiving or is being a forgiving person is someone who's been offended somehow.
Right.
Right? So, and it depends on the relationship. Forgiveness is good for yourself, so you can move on and let go of anger.
That's the only reason I think a lot of people forgive. It's so you don't hang on to the anger and the negative emotion of feeling that way. It doesn't mean you have to go to the person who never even said, and a lot of people aren't sorry. So you forgive them for yourself. And, you know, I don't know, this is the whole thing with choosing your words carefully.
Well, words hurt.
Oh,
Words hurt. Expressions hurt. Whenever you react, and we talked about this a few weeks ago, instead of
Yes,
being
we did.
responsive, and look, we all react. We want to be responsive.
I never react.
Well, that's because
I'm only kidding.
you got that 24-hour thing
I
going,
do have that. Lately, it's been 48 hours,
or 24 minutes.
72.
But you can't go through life in an angry state of mind. I said to somebody this week that I was in a negative place for a long time, and to me, to be negative now, for me to be negative for a couple hours, really bothers me. But I didn't want to be. I was telling that person, and it wasn't you.
I know.
I was telling that person.
Oh, great. Are you saying it's me then, Jonathan? Is that what you're trying to say?
No. Present company accepted. But I had a.
Thank you.
I had a conversation that started out on a positive note. It didn't end on a positive note, and I felt bad because I didn't want it to be that way, and that kind of set the tone for my day. And later on, my friend called me and asked me if I was okay. And by the time we were done talking and had a few drinks, we were laughing. So the day ended. The day ended on a positive note. You know, just from a phone call, and it was an act of kindness to recognize that somebody else may have needed a little boost.
Yeah.
So I got a little boost. And at the end of the day, I got a good night's sleep, got up the next day and said, giddy up, let's go.
And see, a lot of times, we talked about this too. You don't want to be in relationships, and Jamie, you're going to agree with this too, because we've talked about it before. We allow ourselves to be vulnerable with the people in our tribe, the people in our families, our friends around us. You shouldn't have to guard your heart when you're expressing something to somebody, and that's kind of what happened to you the other day.
Yeah.
You were vulnerable, and you got hit. You got whacked.
You know what? And you if you want to experience life, you have to be vulnerable.
You have to be. I can't. It's hard to guard your heart. You know, it's
As long as we're a healthy vulnerability.
right.
You don't want to be the alcoholic that's vulnerable, or the drug addict that's vulnerable, or vulnerable to an abusive relationship.
Right.
So there are levels of vulnerability also here. So we have to make sure that we are choosing our words and choosing who we are and how we're portraying ourselves to others. How they see us, we're not in control of that. We are only in control of how we are perceiving or how we're giving off the energy or the words of who we are, and then others then interpret that for themselves. So I do agree with you on being vulnerable. We just need to make sure that we're doing it in a healthy way.
Well, and that's it. And the vulnerability is trusting the person that you're talking to. You know, it just behooves and befuddles me on certain times that you can say something. And one thing I learned a long time ago is that never, when you're in not an argument, but when you're in a discussion with somebody and say they've hurt your feelings or they did something that really upset you, never start the sentence with, you did this, you did that. You're never going to get anywhere. And I always, when I start a conversation with anybody, I always start out with, I'm feeling very hurt because when you said this, when you did that, right or wrong, it's how I felt. And to me, it's a pretty simple concept. If someone loves you that much, cares about you, friendship, relationship, otherwise, they're not going to want you to feel that way. And I have to question their feelings if it doesn't bother them. You know, I just stop me when you can.
I think so.
Just stop me now.
We've talked about healthy communication in several of our shows, and you're right, Anne. The statements are, I feel blank when this happens.
Right.
In the future, I would like this so that I can feel like this. That's healthy communication.
Exactly.
Yet, when we're upset or angry or sad, any emotion, when we have an emotion that is out of kilter, which has put us in a fight or flight state, our communication breaks down. And we need to do little self-checks, check in, check our breathing, check what we're seeing, smelling, tasting, feeling, touching, and then we're able to calm ourselves down and communicate just how you said. I feel blank when this happens. In the future, I'd like this so I can feel this, or so we can do this, or whoever you're communicating that to. So you're absolutely right. Communication becomes difficult. We have to choose our words carefully, and we have to look at how we're giving off that energy. Are we being kind in our communication, even when we're hurt or upset or angry or any of the, qualifying emotions? Jonathan, I'm sorry if I cut you off there.
No, that's all right.
He's used to that. I do it to him all the time.
That's part of my job. So I think what happened this week was that we were trying to be kind. I haven't talked to you, Jamie, but I'm just going to include you too. We're all trying to be kind. And unfortunately, we were not treated the same way. In fact, we were I don't even want to say the word attacked, but we did not receive the same consideration that we were offering to others.
It is like an attack. You get whacked, and you didn't see it coming.
You're
trusting the other person just to say something, and bam.
It almost knocks the wind out of you. And one of the things.
And hopefully knocks the sense back into you.
Yeah. No, it probably didn't.
I know. It didn't either.
Because otherwise we'd be over it by now. We wouldn't be talking about it.
Exactly.
But kindness and returning in kind are two different things. So your kindness is being put to the test when you're under attack. Maybe not physically, but verbally or
emotionally, all that.
Yeah, you don't want to be. You have to stay on that course.
You don't want someone to be mean to you. That's all. Nobody wants anyone to be mean to them.
And I think sometimes you have to take a break. You have to walk away and say, you know what? We can either revisit this another time, or if we're never going to come to a resolution, and we've talked about this,
yes,
we have to come to a conclusion. And the conclusion has either got to be positive or kind, or you have to walk away.
Well, not everybody's going to agree on everything. It's okay. Like, what's the saying? It's okay to agree to disagree, because sometimes you can't get there. But if you have enough respect for one another, you can find that middle ground so that the disagreement doesn't get one person's upset and the other person's spewing venom at them. That's kindness goes right out the window.
I think what I'm probably proud of myself for is not taking the bait and turning going from being kind-hearted and caring to defensive, and okay, two can play at that game.
That's gaslighting, you know.
Yeah, you started telling me I'm supposed to.
And
I'm
Jonathan,
supposed to look up
kudos to
gaslighting.
you
I
for
can't
saying you
remember what
didn't
that
take
is.
the bait. And I think more, even our audience can attest, that is probably one of the largest weakness in all of us. And when I say not just the three of us, I'm talking
You mean there's more?
Americans in general. I can't speak for other cultures, but I want to say that as Americans, we do have a problem with feeding or taking the bait because we want to be heard, we want to be reasonable, we want to be understood, we want to be engaged with this person at some kind of intimate level because we're in a relationship with them, whether it's mother, daughter, husband, wife, employee, employer, whatever. We end up, just like you said, taking the bait because we're already in some kind of intimate relationship with them at some level, and we forget to just identify with them by giving them empathy or being selfless and not taking the bait. So kudos to you for saying you didn't take the bait.
Well, there's been a lot of times where I have taken the bait. So.
Yeah, well, I know we all do.
My mother would
But
my
you
mother
were
would
able
say
to recognize it this time.
my mother would say to me, oh, so you got it once this right. You got it right this one time.
There you go.
Good for you. Good for you. You should have been doing it all along. But at least you got it right this one time. I guess at the end, Tuesday was a bad day. We all agreed it was a bad day. But at the end of the day, the positive thing that I walked away with was that even though I was a little bit damaged,
A little broken. We all
was a
get
little
a little
broken.
broken.
but you know what? The next day, thanks to a little help from your friends, you feel better. You wake up with a new attitude, and you're ready to go after it. You can't stay in that funk, and I guess it's okay, because taking that shot in the stomach, hurts for a little while. But eventually you get your breath back.
Mm-hmm.
And if I walked away with anything positive from this week is that, hey, here we are, living our best life, trying to help others understand that what we talk about are things that we actually experience. And if we can overcome and still be kind to one another, then we've really accomplished something. We learned something, and we probably did some small part to make our world a little better. And to Jamie, to what you said about you can't speak for other cultures, but you speak for Americans. Well, you can speak for other cultures. You're just like me. You're second generation, born in this country from a European household, and you know those same values go back thousands of years. Humans in general know. I said to Ann this week, if you had lived in the jungle from the time you were born and you were raised by chimpanzees like Tarzan, and you come out of the jungle when you're 20 years old, and you've never been taught, you've never gone to church, you don't know anything about God or any spiritual values, you are inherently spiritual. Humans are inherently spiritual and have a conscience. So some people's conscience are more callous than others. Some people are more jaded, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, you know basic things. You know it's wrong to steal something. You know it's wrong to kill somebody, or hurt somebody physically, without ever having been taught that. So, any time that somebody is not kind to you, and we've been on the receiving end of this, and look, I've been on the giving end of it also. So I try to understand how the other person feels because I've done it to them. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not perfect. I'm going to make mistakes. But at the end of the day, the only reason we're not is because we become defensive. We feel devalued. And that puts us in a precarious position when it comes to continuing to be kind and considerate.
Yeah, I
Make
agree.
sense?
Yes, because it's hard. Because I agree with that. There was something else I was going to add. I forgot the word you. Taken for granted.
Taken for granted.
Nobody wants to be taken for granted.
But how many times have we all, at some point in our lives, taken somebody else for granted? And that's where continuing to be kind goes a long way. If you always remember how you have felt and you don't want to make the other person feel that way, does that mean the other person is going to change overnight and give you a hug and tell you everything's going to be okay? No, it doesn't. But if you're consistently kind, they're either going to have to avoid you because your presence is just going to make them feel bad because you're kind all the time, and they're not.
Jonathan, I have to say something to that. Ann and I have talked about this, and I think we talked about this on another one of our shows. Recently, I had a family member say some very hurtful, ugly things to me. And you would think that your families would be supportive. And recently, that same family member made a post that said, you encourage other people to be successful, but when they do get to that success, it's hard to embrace them for their successes.
It's a jealousy thing.
Therefore, their kindness leaves them. They go from being kind or returning in kind to the person and become jealous or envious or upset that maybe that person didn't give them gratitude or give them thanks for helping getting them there. Never really sure until that person can search within themselves and figure out what's going on.
It would be.
But you're right. There are too many people that don't know how to be kind and do say some awful, terrible, hurtful things because they don't know why they're feeling what they're feeling, and they're not feeling joy or happiness for you in your experiences.
And I agree.
I don't mean you yourself. I mean the other person.
I agree with you, Jamie, and I think it's also important to back up that those are reasons why, but not excuses. You can reason why someone's acting out and being unkind. Sure, there's a reason for everything, but that doesn't make it an excuse, and it doesn't make it okay, and it doesn't make it right. I've always said that to my kids. I understand why you did that, but that's not an excuse why you did it. If there was bad behavior or they were hurtful or anything, but I hear what you're saying. People they've got everybody acts, I guess everybody's got their own stuff. You either deal with it or you don't deal with it, but the people around you are going to pay for that. Jamie, we've talked about this. I've talked about it with Jonathan. This is people's fear, insecurities, jealousy, looking at you saying, well, you had a bad day. How did you get through it so well? Why aren't you miserable like I am? People don't want you to have what they can't have, even though they can have it. A lot of people don't want to put the work in to understand why they're feeling a certain way or understand why they can't get through something. They don't want to put the work in. They don't want to change anything. They think they can't change. So they're going to take it out onto people like the three of us that can.
Everybody's got poop. That's acceptable, right?
I said that. Didn't I say that the other day?
Well, that's I've been we've said that or that's been said to me for years and years, and the basis for it.
I would say caca. Everybody's got caca.
All right,
It's what
I'm just thinking.
it's what you do with that caca that makes a difference.
I'm just thinking of the emoji.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
The vision of the emoji being texted to me this week was so everybody's got stuff. We'll call it stuff. Everybody's got stuff, and the reason that's important, and I've said this before, is that before you judge somebody or before you criticize somebody, understand that they got stuff going on. And in a perfect world, they would understand that you got stuff going on. So now all of a sudden, okay, it's what do you want to be envious of me for? I got stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You got stuff too. I'm not envious of your stuff. I don't want you to be envious of mine. But let's not take it out on one another. Let's be kind to one another. And how much better off that would go in everyday life, no matter who you're with or who you're engaged with. Understanding what you may not know what it is, but understand that maybe there's a reason why somebody is reacting a certain way, and maybe we can tone it down a little bit. Maybe we can stop it.
Take it down a notch.
Yeah, just
Back it up.
take a step back. Take a step back and try to accomplish something, because nothing got accomplished on Tuesday.
Not for me.
Not for me.
Well, Jonathan, here's a question. Let's pose this. Knowing that
6'3", a Gemini. Technically,
yeah,
I'm still married, but I am
terrible things
available.
happen to us. People are not kind. People say ugly things. People want, if they're feeling angry or upset or taken advantage of, now they want to make you feel that because misery loves company.
It's projection.
If you're the person who is kind, if you're the person that turns the other cheek, if you're the person that usually is the one to say, okay, what's going on? What I hear you saying is, and you're telling them what you felt like they just said, they're agreeing that they just said those things, and you're trying to help them see why they're treating you this way or what's going on or what the true dynamics are, and the kindness and positively does not change in them. I think that goes back to what we talked about a few weeks ago when you clean your tribe. It's time to release those people who can't find kindness, can't find joy, can't find peace, because they aren't there yet. They aren't ready to be those positive people. They aren't ready to be kind. Their misery is loving more and more misery. They're that bad strawberry in the pack that's making the other strawberries moldy. They're the rotten apple in the fruit bowl that's making all the other apples or oranges turn bad. They aren't ready.
Well, they're ready to be thrown out.
Exactly. Exactly.
And but humans have more value than a piece of moldy fruit. And while that's and I really appreciate the analogy.
I love the analogy though, because it's true.
Yeah, again, I can picture it. I
can too.
I actually seen that somewhere this week.
My refrigerator.
Oh, maybe.
I had the strawberries with the one strawberry ruined the whole pack.
and yes, that happens. That's why I freeze them. Another story, another day. You're Jamie. I know what happened on Tuesday. I know the reason behind it. Didn't make it any less hurtful. But it's something. It's things that have built up over a bunch of years, and it got aired out. It didn't get aired out all the way. Nothing got accomplished because it started getting hurtful, and I won't engage in that anymore. I said to Ann a couple weeks ago, I don't want to battle anymore. I want to have productive conversations, and I want to have productive conversations that are based on kindness and consideration. And look, I can't fix tomorrow, but I can be a better person today and maybe change tomorrow if I'm fortunate enough to get the opportunity, which is why you wake up happy and you go to bed grateful. And I stole that from Ann. I didn't make that up.
Yes, I was going to say, I heard that somewhere this week. Did I write that?
You wrote it somewhere.
Yes, it's so important to go to bed on a positive note. As a matter of fact, I was just talking about this today in a counseling session, that before partners, even spousal partners, should always, if they are going to bed together or try to go to bed around the same time, or even if you sit down on the couch and relax around the same time, sit down and talk about something that is not revolved around household chores, work, something different.
Right.
A movie you saw, a television show, a bike ride, a bird you saw this morning, a bloom you saw outside because it's spring, the weather. Talk about something and then turn that conversation into joy. Make it something joyful. Then that way, when you are going to bed, you can say your 3 things you are thankful for. And some days you can only be thankful for the feet you're walking on because it was that bad of a day. But at the end of the day, every day, there are at least 3 things we can be thankful for. Oxygen in the air.
So the conversation, that conversation when you're sitting down on the couch shouldn't probably involve religion or politics.
No.
Yeah, no.
No, I was just checking.
No. It's like social media pages.
And,
no.
And the one thing that I've done with my children, all of my children, when I raise them, is we read before we go to bed every night. Now, if there's something that happens at night and we don't have time to read before bedtime, even 5 minutes, I at least lay in there with them and try to think of 3 positive things that happened in the day, and that's at least the thing we can do to help put our minds at peace before we go to bed.
How about what are the 3 kind things you did that day?
That's another thing.
That's a good one.
That is a good thing to say, because sometimes the best kind of kindness is not when someone's being unkind to you, to just stay as calm and kind as you can and walk away from it.
Yeah, because you can't let it derail you, and I think what happened to me and
it derailed me. It did. It derailed
me.
You
allowed yourself to be derailed for the day. This is not what happened. The conversation that started all this with me did not last all day. It probably lasted maybe a half an hour, and it was mostly text. Mm-hmm. There was a short phone conversation, then there was some texting, and it really wasn't that long. I spent more time talking to Ann on Tuesday than this whole.
But it's the same with mine. I mean, I had other stuff hitting me throughout the day and the weekend, but it was a phone call from someone in my family that didn't last that long either, that knocked me to my core, rocked my world, hurt my feelings beyond anything, that I came in the house crying and I thought I'm just going to bed. So it was, that just led right into the martini glass of tears on Tuesday, because it was just, I think sometimes you hit a culmination, and when you've got too much unkindness and too many people coming after you and being negative around you, you hit a wall at a point that it brings such a sadness. And for me, I can't believe someone wouldn't be kind to me. That really confuses me, because especially the fact that I'm an empath, but I never try to hurt someone's feelings. And if I say something that does, I'm the first person to say, I did not mean it to come out that way, or I didn't mean. If I'm having a bad day, I'm going to tell you. I'm tired today. I don't feel well. I'm a little short today. So I'm just going to kind of keep to myself. It's nothing against you. It's just, I'm not having a good day. I think that's the best we could do, is warn the people we're around.
That you're not having a good day?
Yeah, but see, I try very diligently not to take it out on anybody, because it's my life lesson somewhere in there. If I'm having a bad day, it's something that I have to learn, something I have to deal with. You know, my very first show on this show was everything begins with you. You're in a bad mood. Go inside yourself. Why? You know, there's circumstances, there's situations, there's illness, there's fatigue, there's lots of things. But
You have to. I guess you have to figure yourself out. But more importantly, you have to still be kind-hearted and considerate. Here's a two-way kindness. Somebody's holding the door open for me before I go into the store. And I can see that they're waiting for me, and I'm 5 steps away from the door. Well, for me to be kind back and show my appreciation, I run to the door and say, thank you for holding the door open for, or just thank you. Mm-hmm. And usually, you almost always get a welcome, because that person who is thoughtful enough, and the timing might not have been perfect, which is why there's that awkward part where, how long am I going to hold this door for the person, right? But if you appreciate that kindness, you're going to meet them more than half, or at least halfway. And that goes not just for holding doors, but in any kind of conversation where you're trying to either resolve something or discuss something. And sometimes we have neglected that kind of communication for so long that you can't just think, okay, well, you know what? Today I'm going to be positive. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be smart. I'm going to be important. Whatever.
you is kind, you is smart, you is important.
So
I love that one.
and it's not going to make it all better in one
Oh,
day.
I wonder where we got that.
I just, like I said, you have to understand, and I have to understand that, you know, you can't undo years of neglect by deciding one day, after the horse has already left and the barn door is closed, that you're going to fix it. So one of the things I've taken away from this week, besides an appreciation for my friends, is that you have to be patient with people. That doesn't mean you have to be a doormat and let people walk all over you and insult you, because that's what you want to avoid that anyway. But then it's time to disengage. And I really think, you know, if I look back on the last couple of days, is, you know, I should have disengaged sooner.
No, it's like I say, I always go till after the fat lady sings. I never disengage when I should. I don't. Because I always think everything can be fixed. Everything can be saved. I see so much positivity in the world and how people are. I have a very hard time saying, you know, coming to terms with some things just aren't going to change. Some people are not going to be as kind as I want them to be. And that's hurtful to me. I mean, that hurts my heart. It hurts my soul that by spreading kindness and being an example of kindness and love and compassion, of understanding, you know, there are people that it just doesn't rub off on them. And they don't see that as, wow, look at the life she's living. You know, even on a bad day, she's still kind and she's still this and she's still that. I think this is why I wanted to do this month with kindness, because I think the world is in absolute desperate need of everyone being kind to one another. I really do. I think that's going to take off if everybody can start doing that and really look at what you're saying. Look at how you're treating somebody. Really look at it. Do you want to make somebody cry or make somebody have a bad day for a whole day? I mean, is that your goal in life, or is your goal to just be a good human being, be appreciative of the people in your life? And some things are just not meant to be said.
You start out. It's funny you said that. You start out by being kind, not returning in kind.
Mm-hmm.
And once you build on that foundation and you learn how to disengage sometimes, to avoid going down that road of negativity, then little by little you're able to enrich your own life, and you can enrich others. And it may not be people you know. It's an old woman trying to put grocery bags in her car and she's struggling. Well, if you see that, take a minute and help her. She'll probably call the cops on you because she thinks you're robbing her.
Yeah, that's
because she won't even expect it.
But see, that's the sadness in this world today. It
Yeah.
is. That's where it's gone. That's where things have gotten sad.
But just be observant as to what's going on around you. And when you see people struggling, whether it's emotionally or physically, I'm not qualified to help anybody mentally, but if you see a need, try to do what you can, maybe not to fill the need, but to ease and offer some relief to your neighbor, your fellow human being, because everybody's got stuff. Some stuff is obvious, some stuff isn't obvious. Some people have made choices in their life that put themselves in a certain position, and they look at you and they think, boy, he's living some kind of fabulous life, when things are not always what they appear. But you shouldn't be offended by it. You just gotta, take it on the chin. And if they want to listen and they want to hear your explanation, that's fine. If they don't, well, everything comes out in the end, and everything works itself out, whether you like it or not. We talked about how we find our journey to our life's purpose. Somebody told us that it's already been defined for us, and I just think, well, nobody's told me. It's still a secret. But however you get there is eventually where you were meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
But on that journey or that path should be lined with kindness, and we're using the and this is a positive show. I'm not feeling negative here at all, but we're reflecting on some negative experiences we had, so it doesn't derail us from being kind and becoming better people. Because I think if you're positive, you're helping yourself first. If you're kind to another person, you're helping yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
And said it before, the definition of kindness is an act that you don't expect, or you expending yourself on someone's behalf without expecting or wanting anything in return.
It's just being nice. Why can't everybody?
Yeah, it's really not that
Why
hard.
can't everybody just get along? Honestly, it's just a concept that it really, like I had said earlier in the show, I had a whole different month planned this month, and I just in the last 2 weeks called Jonathan. I said, okay, I've had enough, and I
Yeah.
did. And I said, we're kicking in the kindness for the month because people have to understand the world's already got enough tragedy going on in it. There's so much. I mean, you could write a book on all the sadness and tragedy going on, but when you focus on the positive and just try to be kind to one another, people get through things better when there's a kind soul on the other end helping them through. Kindness helps you get through anything you're going through in your life. And I think, boy, if everybody could just practice it and, understand that, I think it'd be a very different world.
Anne, you're talking about if everybody, kindness can go a long way, and if everybody could just give kindness. With the thing that happened to you, with the thing that happened to Jonathan, with the things that have happened to me, with the things that happens to anyone.
Right.
Anyone. Those words, and I did that. I think we did the story of the nail in the fence a long time ago. I shared that story.
Mm-hmm.
Those words leave permanent holes. They're engraved. They're engraved forever in our heart and in our mind, in our memory. Now, you can forgive, but you never forget. So how hard would it for that person who's angry, upset, resentful, jealous, for them to have kindness in their heart and change the way they word things to you? Communication is so important. You said choose your words. How hard would it be for someone to say, instead of saying, you are a show-off, you like to rub things in people's faces, instead saying, I felt like you were showing off when you took me on a wine weekend away. It felt as if you were rubbing in my face that you had money and I didn't. In the future, please don't invite me. Or in the future, please don't let me know that you can afford this just because I can't. Whatever the thing is, word it to where the true feeling that they're feeling is present. Then they're able to actually be vulnerable, so maybe that's why they don't want to do it. But then they're letting them express to you what's really going on, and you can, in turn, be empathetic towards them and say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I was doing that. I'm so sorry. That makes sense. I don't ever want you to feel that way.
Sometimes we do things that we think the other person wants without really, when it's really what we want for them. And that's
Exactly.
and that's not really being kind. You may be coming from a kind place, but it's not.
It's selfish kind.
It's not selfless. It is
No,
selfish kind.
It is selfish.
The forgive and forget thing, and has reminded me of this often. You can forgive, but I'm going to agree that you don't forget. But it's just like a Google review. If you replace or suppress a bad review with 100 really good reviews, well, maybe you didn't forget that bad review, but it kind of fades away. And it doesn't, at first the pain gets dull, and eventually the pain goes away. And I think that is going to be my final coherent thought.
Well, you know what? I throw in that you're saying forgive and forget. I don't buy that line. I also don't buy when people say, well, you always hurt the ones you love. I don't buy that either. I call buckus on that. Is that the word, bunkus? Buckus? I call that's not right.
Okay.
You shouldn't hurt the ones you love, because the ones you love are the ones that are loving you through whatever you're going through. And it's just, Jonathan and I were just talking about it, Jamie, and I know there's a big movement in the world, and I'm sure you'll know it. When we were growing up, you'd come home from school, you'd tell your mom, the little boy pulled my ponytail, and your mother would say, well, that's because he likes you. Well,
Right.
and back then maybe it was true, but now there's a big movement, because when did a positive emotion of liking somebody cause a negative reaction in somebody else. So I think, as we get ready to close up this show today, I think the important thing is to say to people today, to be kind and to be mindful of what you're saying to others. I mean, I got to say, and I know I've talked to you about this, Jamie and Jonathan, I love this show. I love doing this show. I am grateful every Thursday to Doc over there and Hamilton Radio to have this forum. And we've talked that not only I'm hoping to make somebody feel better that listens to this show, that the three of us can do that. But I find it's very therapeutic for myself. And Jonathan and I have said that too. It's also helping us because we're talking about real-time things. I mean, we had a bad Tuesday. We're putting it out there. We're not giving all the specifics. We're trying to explain this is how it happened. This is how we tried to get through. But I think the kindness thing, I think choose your words carefully because you're hurting somebody's heart. You're chipping away at it. You're breaking their spirit is what you're doing.
You hurt the ones you love because you've taken them for granted, and you can only hurt them because they've been vulnerable to you.
Right.
And that's a real, that's just mean.
See, it's mean.
Just mean.
It is mean.
To take advantage of somebody who's vulnerable to you, and then later on when they're not willing to be vulnerable to you anymore, you're like, well, what happened? Well, you have nobody to blame but yourself. And that's all I have to say.
And we're going to
about that.
continue all of this next week. I would love to tell all of you listening what we're talking about, but we're just going to keep this kindness thing rolling next week when we're live. So, Jamie, I'm going to let you and Jonathan say your goodbyes, then I'm going to wrap it up.
Go ahead, Jamie.
Well, again, thank you. It's always a pleasure that we all get to be on here together every Thursday, sharing life stories, things that everyone goes through at some point or another. Today might just be what they needed to hear about kindness. Maybe the little tidbits about communication. Anything that we said today hopefully helped one person be able to pay it forward in a kindness way, in a positive note, and it might have turned their bad day into something a little bit more positive. Perfect. So thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be with both of you, and I can't wait till you get into the new studio, and then we can go video live so everyone can actually see me.
Yes, Doc is saying yes.
Thank you.
It'll be
We'll
great.
put it right up on the desk with us.
Thanks for. I was going to put a head, like your head.
We're going to get a 8x10 picture of you
headshot?
and just put it in a frame in between us.
Jonathan, I'll email you my approved headshot. You can go ahead and do that.
I really don't want to be in charge of that because it never ends well for me. But I want to thank Doc for having us every week, and thank Ann for putting up with me.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad. Thank you to both of you for being here. I think it was a good show today. And on that note, I am going to wish everybody love and light. Please be kind and be mindful of how you're treating everybody else, because mean people, you're going to have a very negative effect on somebody's life. And here we don't want to do that. So I want to say goodbye to all of you. I'm going to end the show with the song "The Dreamer," because after the week I've had, that's all I want to be doing is dreaming of things getting better. So thanks for joining Living Your Best Life. As always, we're trying to change the world one show at a time. Thanks, everybody.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
There is a dreamer who lives in a world of endless possibilities, with never-ending boundaries. passion, burning desire, dares to reach higher and higher while running from a wildfire. Yeah. He believes in a peaceful outcome. He believes in the spirit realm. He agrees that a leap of faith is needed to redeem the truth he failed. Maybe you're the dreamer, mind open tonight. Maybe you're the dreamer with a gift of second sight. Maybe you're the dreamer, a visionary thinker. Maybe you're the dreamer and you can see the light. The dreamer is reflected in water through the sunglow, the colors of a rainbow, taking in and letting go, yeah. He believes in common sense. He believes in reasons being. He can see a picture in his mind. He will read the shapes and signs.